Hey everybody, welcome to another week of science experiments. Miss Hattie here. You can see for the first time I am in a different room in my house, and for today's experiment I'm using a bit of a different camera because I'm going to have to pause and move around to show you the setup for this experiment, which might get a little annoying, and I apologize ahead of time, but I think it's totally worth it for today's experiment because it is one of my favorite experiments of the year. And even though we are apart, I could not bear not doing this experiment with you. So I'm not sure how this is going to go. We'll give it a try. I'll show you how to set up for this experiment, and then you'll see if you can duplicate it at home because it's a pretty fun one. So for today's experiment, we're going to talk about a big word, vortex. Vortex. What does that word start with? That's right, the letter V, vortex. Now that is probably a word that not many of you have heard before. Maybe some of you who have been in my class, we've talked about it before. Do you remember what a vortex is? It's spinning water or air. Spinning water or air. Now, can you think of an example of a vortex spinning air that you would see outside? This would be big spinning air. You would only see it outside. The weather would have to be pretty severe. We'd have to have a pretty bad storm to see this type of a vortex. Can you think of one? Spinning air outside in a storm? Did you say tornado? That's right. A tornado is an example of a vortex. There's other extreme examples, like outside, like a whirlpool or a hurricane. Those are big examples that most of us only see in books or on a computer or on television. We don't actually see them in person, but there are lots of examples in your house. Part of today's experiment is for you to go on a vortex scavenger hunt and see how many you can find in your house. I can think of 3 that you could find by just going to your bathroom, and one of them you might see several times a day. I'm not going to tell you what they are. You're going to have to go try to figure it out for yourself, but see if you can go explore around your house to find different examples of a vortex. And how many can you find? Okay, that's your first challenge. Now, we're also going to make one using something that I hope you have at home. I have all my fingers crossed that you have this at home. Let me show you what it is. Okay, for today's experiment, I'm hoping that you have a fan, because a fan makes a vortex. It makes spinning air. So the way a fan works is when you turn it on, inside there are these 3, if you could see them up close, there's like these 3 fins, propellers, that spin in a circle. And they pull air from around the fan, from the back of it, and then push it out through the top in a spinning breeze, spinning vortex of air. A fan makes a vortex. And we can use that to make a wind tunnel, which is a really fun thing to make. Okay, so you're going to need a fan to make your vortex for your wind tunnel. You're also going to need some tape, if you have that at your house, and then you need something to make a cylinder out of. Now, a cylinder is a long tube, okay? For my cylinder, I used one of my children's old school projects. So this was a big sheet of poster board. You can see their project is inside. And what we did is we just rolled it up like this to make this long tube or cylinder. If you don't have poster board at home, you could use cardboard, like if you had a box that you could cut apart to make into a cylinder. We also tried using a yoga mat. If you have a yoga mat at home, you can make that into a cylinder. It's kind of floppy, but if that's what you have at home, you could do it. Be creative. Be creative. Those are just 3 examples, but I'm sure you can think of something with your grown-up to make a cylinder out of. Now, the important thing when you're making this is that you want the opening of your cylinder to be able to fit over the top of your fan. So here, for example, what we want is we want this to be able to sit right on top. I'm like, whoa, it's hard to do up on the tabletop. You're going to do this on the floor. This is a project for the floor. Okay, so there we go. So that's what we want it to look like. We want your cylinder to fit over the top of the fan. The distance around this is called the circumference, the distance around the circle. We want those two to be the same, the circumference of your cylinder and the circumference of your fan, so that they can fit right on top of each other, like a tall tower. I'm going to show you this on the floor in a minute, okay? But that's what you need. You need a fan, if you have one, and then you need to find something to make a cylinder out of. If you don't have a round fan like that, at the very end, I'm going to show you how to do this with a box fan. The round fan works the best, but I'm going to show you an alternative in case you don't have that at your house. And then the last thing you're going to need is something to put into the wind tunnel, something that can is easily lifted by air. So my favorite thing to use in this experiment are balloons. If you had your parachute from a couple weeks ago, you could test that. You could also cut up tiny pieces of tissue paper or little pieces of cloth. It has to be something light or something that can catch that breeze, okay? Balloons are my favorite. Tissue paper is another really great one. Try your parachute. And then for the rest, be creative. I mean, anything that's light and could blow in the breeze. That would be what you're looking for. Now, I should have mentioned this before, so I'm going to go back. Let's talk about fan safety, okay? This is definitely an experiment that you get to do as a family, because for a fan to work, let's tilt it out again. Remember I talked, it has these blades inside, and when you turn it on, they spin really fast. Now my fan has openings that are so small, I couldn't get my fingers in there, which is good, but I want you to keep your fingers far, far away from the fan. Because what happens with these spinning blades, if you stuck your finger by them, it would really hurt. It would hurt, okay? And I don't want that. So when you're working with a fan, you need to have your grown-up around, and you need to keep your fingers and your hair away from the spinning blades, okay? That's safety when we're working with fans. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to use those things to make your own vortex in the house. And I'm going to pause here, set it up, and come back to show you what it's going to look like. Okay, I'm back, and this is how you're going to set up those two items that you have, your fan and the tube you've made, right? So the tube is sitting right on top, but it's not blocking the bottom because you want the fan to be able to pull air in through the bottom and then up through the top of the tube. Now, this wind tunnel would work without this. Here's what this does. When the fan blows the air out, when this isn't on, some of the air would spill off to the sides and we would lose some of it. But when you put this tube on top, it directs all of the air straight through the top. So we have a stronger, more directed breeze. So one of the experiments you could try is you could look at the difference in the effect with and without the tube. So one time have it with the tube on the fan, and then try it again with the tube off of the fan and see if there's a difference. There you should see that when the tube is on top, you have a stronger stream of air coming up the top. Okay, we'll see. All right, so here's what we're going to do now. So after you have it all set up, either you or your grown-up is going to turn it on to its highest setting. Now, you probably can't hear it at your house, but I can hear that the fan is on. And if I put my hand over it, I can feel the breeze that we've made. But the tricky thing with air is you can't see it, right? So we've made a vortex, and I can hear the fan, I can feel it, but I can't see it. And that's why you need these different items that you've selected. We can't see air. We can only see its effect on other things, okay? So we're going to look at the effect of the vortex on this balloon. So normally, when I have a balloon and I hold it up in the air and then I let it go, which direction is the balloon going to go? Up, down? What's your guess? Okay, let's see. So I let it go. Did you guess down? That's right, because we know when we drop things here on Earth, they go down. They go down, okay? This time, we're going to try it again, but instead of dropping it just down on my lap, I'm going to first put it into the vortex that we've made. So I feel for the air. I set the balloon into the air. I don't let go yet. Make your guess this time where the balloon is going to go. Okay, and then we let go. Oh, it went out of screen. Here, let me tilt the camera. All right. Whoops. Let's try one more time. There you go. You can see this time the balloon did not go down. It got trapped inside the spinning air. It's trapped in the vortex or the tornado that we've made. Okay? If I block the air, oh, did you see how the balloon kind of changed it? And if I move? So if we block the vortex, the balloon may go up or down. That's going to be something that you're going to experiment with at home. And then the size of the balloon might also have an effect. So we have this teal balloon. I'm going to pull it back up. Whoop. All right, we have this balloon, the teal one, and then we have a purple one. Which one is bigger? This one, okay? So we put that one in. It's trapped in the vortex. And now we're going to add the purple one. And we're going to see if they can both be trapped in the vortex at the same time. And if you think they're going to be in the same spot. So let's test it out. Whoa. They do a little dance. And then you can see which one is higher. The bigger balloon is higher. So if you had a bunch of different sized balloons, you could see how many, one, you could fit into the vortex, and you could also make a guess as to where they were going to be. Were they going to be up towards the top or way down at the bottom? Okay? All right, you don't have to use balloons. Another thing that you could do is you could cut up little pieces of tissue paper, all these little pieces of tissue paper, and you could put them down into the tube, and then when you let go, they'll fly up. And one of the things that we sometimes do in the classroom is if you had a net around, we have a bunch of these for fishing, but if you had a net around, you could put the tissue paper in, and when it flew up into the air, you could see how many you could catch with a net. And then there's other things you can try. I mean, see what other things you can get to get caught in the vortex and how high they are. And what if you turned the fan to a lower speed? What would be the effect of it? Or could you try to move this tube and move the balloon with it? There's a lot of fun things you can try once you've made your wind tunnel, your vortex, okay? Now, one final thing I'm going to show you is if you didn't have this fan, if you had a different kind, let me show you how you would set that up. So I'm going to pause you one more time. Okay, what if you don't have one of those circular fans? What if the only kind of fan you have is this kind, which is called a box fan? You can still do it, it's just going to be a little bit trickier because for this to make this, you need to have the fan on its side. And you can't put this directly down on the ground or the air won't be able to be sucked in through the bottom. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to prop it up, maybe on some blocks or a stack of books, or what I've done is I've set it on some chairs. So I'm going to set it over there and then I'll show you. Okay, there we go. So let's see if I can, okay, so you can see I've put it in between two chairs so that there's still an opening between the chairs. And then because it's such a much bigger fan, you're going to need a much bigger tube. I made this one out of a cut up cardboard box. And you would set it on like this. That would focus your air. Again, remember you don't need the tube. It just helps focus that air a bit. But you could do it without, or you could try to make a big one out of something. And that would be a way for you to still do the experiment if you only had a box fan at your house. What if you don't have any fan? I mean, that's okay too. You can still go on the scavenger hunt to find the different examples of a vortex. And you can make one with just a jar like this that has a lid on it. And you would fill it with water almost to the top. Leave a gap at the top like this. And you'll just put 1 or 2 squirts of soap in it. Okay, and then close your lid really tight. Or You could put a little bit of glitter in there if you have glitter, okay? And then you close your lid really tight. And when you shake it, you kind of shake it in a circular fashion. You won't be able to see this probably across, oh, maybe a little bit, but you can make a vortex out of water, okay? You can't throw balloons into this vortex, but if you didn't have a fan at home, this would be a way for you to still experiment with a vortex with what you have at your house. So those are lots of different ways that you can experiment this week. I hope you have a really good time. I hope I see you next time. And until then, be well, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.